Hello. There's kind of a funny story about how this book came to be. So, years and years and years ago, I had an agent and she asked me to put together a proposal for a publisher. And so I did. I put together the core idea of the Big and Easy, and the big thing then was connected series. And I just was unable to write story after story about the same person. It's just not my thing. So I gave my main character 12 siblings, Baker's dozen. So I turned it in to my agent, who gave it to the editor. And the feedback I got was, no one has that many kids. Yes, they do. There needs to be sex. And, oh, by the way, you need to focus better and quit writing off in these other genres. So I said no to the sex and no to killing off the siblings. And the agent and I parted ways. She had asked me to focus. So after that, I focused on not having an agent. So a few years passed and I wrote some other books, including some sci-fi. And a friend of mine who had read the early proposal of this found it on her computer and read it. And she goes, why haven't you written that book? And so I opened it up and went, why haven't I written this book? I can keep my siblings. I'm totally in charge of my writing. And, oh, by the way, I can write whatever story I want too. And I don't have to put sex in it. So I pulled it out. I didn't like, when I looked at the plot that I created, I didn't like it, but I did like the characters and the opening. And my agent actually told me that a year later, she still remembered my characters in this story. So I thought I would read you a little bit from Relatively Risky, the Big and Easy book 1. And thanks to me and my agent parting ways, I'm working on book 11. So the siblings get to live on and they get to have their stories. So a little about the book. Alex Baker is the oldest of 13, and he does two things. He solves murders and avoids children until the day Nell Whitby walks into his life. And she's a children's book author, so she attracts children in the way that is not comfortable for Alex. So I'm just going to start reading. When Alex Baker felt the cold gun barrel press against the back of his neck, he knew a bad night had just gotten worse. New Orleans at night was always a walk on the wild side, but when the moon was full, wild got supersized. The crazies came out, the bullets flew, and the emergency rooms filled up with the bloodied and the bowed. When he had already had the best view of the city's worst, working homicide for the New Orleans Police Department, it wasn't a good idea to piss off a mayoral aide because the view was worse at night. Thank goodness it was his last night shift, at least until he pissed off someone else. It had felt like everyone was taking pot shots at everyone else the whole dang night. The homicide rate had never been great, but it had gotten worse since Katrina. If something didn't change, the city council really would move to reclassify bullet holes as a natural cause of death, just to improve the stats for tourists. Starting to feel like it didn't matter how many people lived in New Orleans, just how many died. Nights like this, he wondered why he didn't find some quiet little town where only the wildlife got shot at. But the Big Easy had moved into his head and his heart, and worse, it set a good table. His stomach rumbled a reminder that it had been a long time since his last feeding. No question the food wooed the taste buds, wined and dined, and entertained them. Lord, a body like those sirens in the legends. Even when he hated the city, he loved it. If the devil had a home here and in hell, he'd live here, no question about it, except in August when hell was cooler. In the quiet semi-dark, with morning just starting to lighten the horizon, he turned onto the narrow street where home, breakfast, and bed waited. As usual, cars haphazardly crowded both sides of the street, fitting in where they could and where they shouldn't. Parking in New Orleans required patience, ingenuity, and a huge pile of luck. Sometimes he'd be driving along, spot a great parking place, and feel this overwhelming urge to grab it because it was there. Alex had known he was running out of patience, was probably out of luck. This time of morning, no one was likely to clear a space just because he needed it. They were all sleeping something off in their beds. He should have taken the front fence down a long time ago so he could park on the lawn, but Zach insisted a white picket fence was a chick magnet. A guy really didn't want his dad saying chick magnet, let alone having one in the yard. He'd passed his house wondering if he was going to be doomed to drive around until one of the college students across the street had to go to class. But as he passed across street, he spotted half a space just around the corner. It was by a hydrant, but the parking Nazis weren't out this early, and he could get his dad to move his truck later. He pulled in, got most of his truck off the street, if he didn't mind blocking the sidewalk. He didn't. The dividing line between street and sidewalk was more imagined than real anyway. He shut off the engine and thrust open the door, anxious to get unconscious as soon as possible. Should have known better, should have kept an eye on his surroundings, which was why the stinking little piece of crap got the drop on him, downshifting his night from bad to worse. I hope you'll check it out. I had a heck of a time writing and weaving in my experiences in New Orleans. We lived there for 18 years, and from this Wyoming girl, it was a trip to a foreign nation. Relatively risky, a big and easy book one. Thanks for listening.